On today's episode, we're gonna finish up the steering system as well as mounts for the gas tank as well as the radiator and take it out for a drive.
Well, this just showed up. We ordered it off of eBay, I think it was. It's a 10 liter, which is like 2 point something gallons. Jerry can, made out of steel, sheet metal. So we're planning on opening up a hole in the bottom and use it as a gas tank. It'll probably work. We'll try to make it work. Let's see how it comes out. I'm gonna drill the bottom out of this and try to weld this in place. This is the bottom of MT-09 tank where the fuel pump or the fuel sender unit used to sit, okay? So it bolts up to that like so, hopefully, and I think we will, be able to cut it, weld it in place, make it nice, and it'll look amazing. All right, so I was able to cut it out in a way where I can keep some material up there and down here to fill up this little gap right here, okay? Drill the hole with a drill bit, regular drill bit, and now I'm gonna use an air saw to get in there, try to cut it out the best we can so that it fits in there. Let's see how this goes. All right, so slowly but surely, I was able to weld it in place, making sure I would fill every single little gap or hole I would see. Not the prettiest, but I think it'll do the job. Now here's the fun part. That's the original floater from the MT-09, meaning we're gonna know what fuel level we have on the tank, which is pretty amazing. This fits in here like so, right? Boom, and then comes this aluminum part that holds it in place. I think it's like so. There we go. The 4 bolts right here with the 4 islands it came with, and that's our tank. That's beautiful.
We know that it's gonna be placed somewhere along here towards the end of the tractor. We know that we have to extend the fuel line as well as the connector for the fuel pump itself. So let me show you what we have. So this was the stock length of the fuel line. As you can see, pretty short because the fuel tank was on top of the motor. So what we did, we grabbed the quick connects, cut them off, and we put a generic fuel line so we can run it from the back to the front. And we're gonna go ahead and extend the wiring as well. Now we should have more than enough. We can trim it afterwards. Now what we have to do is extend the wires for the fuel pump. So we're gonna go ahead and expose the 4 wires that we have, chop them up, and take them to the table to extend. So this is the way that we're gonna extend the harness for the fuel pump. We're gonna use exposed butt connectors instead of the ones that come pre-insulated. We believe that those are not, they're not great at doing the insulation job as well as sealing the actual connection points. So what we're using is exposed butt connectors and marine grade heat shrink. So this should get the job done pretty well and avoid water from going in here and messing up our connection later down the road. And this is how it looks. It's all finished up. We went ahead and tested it out. It is working properly. Before we wrap it up, we just wanted to test it. It is working good. So now we're just gonna focus on extending the radiator hoses. As you can see, it's coming out of the block. We have a sleeve over here, so we can extend the hose all the way to over here. We're gonna start fabricating the mount for the radiator.
All right, so as you saw last week in one of our episodes, we are using a little hang joint arm, which I don't know where it is. We're using this heim joint right here with a link bar, whatever you want to call it, and then pushing or pulling on this bar will move our block. I know it's a very intricate steering system, but we're just trying to get it running for now because we have a lot of ideas in mind with some steering boxes, electrical stuff, but that's going to be version 2. As of now, we know this is going to work. We're going to make it work. This is what it looks like. Let me turn the wheel so you can take a look at that. Push or pull, right? You see it? Using these 2 crossbars right here, where we're gonna have another arm mounted in the same exact direction so that when it moves, they both rotate. Steering wheel on top of this. You turn left, it goes left. All right, so in this game of thinking we are fabricators and thinking that we are professional designers, fabricators, engineers, whatever you want to call it, we play a lot of games and we gamble a lot with the reality of the project. We took a gamble on this steering type of thing that we tried with the heim joints, and it's not paying off, to be honest. This was going to be what we're going to use for the steering wheel or the handlebars, whatever you want to call it. We do plan on using a steering wheel. We don't want handlebars like an ATV. So we're using the front differential from the donor bike, flip it over, and use it as a steering box.
Okay, so here we have the donor bike and our lift. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the front diff to see if we are able to make the front differential as a steering box replacement. So we'll see what happens.
So after a long while deconstructing what we already previously designed and tried to go for, scrap that design, and we're going with something new. Danny had a 200 IQ moment yesterday where he said, we're looking for some type of steering gearbox to use in order to convert the 90 degrees that we need to go down into the steering, up into the steering wheel, the handlebar, whatever we're gonna use. And he came up with a great idea. Let's use the same front differential that we have on this bike, from the spare bike that we have, that they gave us, from the spare ATV, and just use it in a way where you see the 90 degrees right here. This is gonna go to the steering wheel. This is gonna go down to the steering. This is locked. We already tried it out. We're gonna set it down here very nice. We already tried out the gear ratios, and it's gonna be a very good gear ratio where half of the turn will give you a full wheel, half of the turn will give you a full wheel. So full lock, half turn, full lock. It's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna be go-kart type of steering.
We're gonna make it work, some U-joints here and there. We'll show you the process. Whenever you run into something that you know it's not gonna work, sometimes you become very stubborn, and we both are very stubborn. We thought it was gonna work, and it's clearly not gonna work, so scrap it, redesign, and keep going forward.
So what we are doing now is converting these splines into a tube, and this is how we did it. We went ahead and cut out the stock drive shaft so we can extract the splines from it, and then we can weld a tube into this and still keep the locking pin on the side.
While Danny is working on, we're gonna relocate this bracket down here that holds this pivoting piece. It pivots around here. Both the tie rods for the steering go in these ends right here. These are the bump stubs for that. We're gonna relocate this, move the angle to what it was originally, because we're redesigning the whole thing. And now this piece that I have right here, we're gonna use with a U-joint. This is just so you have an idea of what it's gonna look like. We're gonna put that here, and then as you spin the shaft that goes directly to the differential that we're using, it'll spin our steering. So this is the actual shaft that we're planning on using to go all the way up to the differential. This is our second attempt at a working steering system. So we took the rack from the other bike, the replacement bike that we had. As you can see, it's the same front differential that we have on this bike. We emptied it out. We're not going to use it with oil or anything like that. We're just using it as a bevel gearbox, okay? As a steering gearbox that's going to have one side going to the driver, and then right here, we're taking this spline out here with a yoke and U-joint to go all the way down, kind of in this position. So as you can see, we steer, it moves left and right. We just got to place it at the right spot, and it'll work perfectly. We extended this using the other ones we had, and we took the opportunity to lower it a little bit, maybe like, I don't know, 5 millimeters or something like that. So it's gonna be lower, it's gonna sit better, because mind you, we are racing it up. So this is gonna help lower it a little more, right? So. Using the mini lathe that we have here in the shop, we're gonna eat out a bit of the material on the back of the yoke for one of the U-joints. So that way we're gonna weld that into the adapter we made that goes down from the differential that we're using into the steering pivot point. So we're just gonna eat out a bit of it so we can weld it and make sure it's laying flat on it.
And this is how the steering system is looking. This is the version 2. As you can see, it's going pretty smoothly. It turns very easily. Since we have a reduction, it turns half a turn full lock, half a turn full lock, so that's gonna be really good. So you can see we have this pillow bearing that we have to make a base for somewhere around this area. And we're at the point that we need to get the steering wheel in place. And for that, we're gonna need to put the seat as well as the fender. So we're gonna have to cut the fender, fit this, put the seat on, and see where the steering wheel is gonna land. Chop, chop.
We cut the flares, or the body work that we did. We cut it up. We were mocked with the chair on top of the frame and everything. And now you can have a look at what it kind of looks like, okay? We feel like this is way too high. From where I'm sitting, it feels high as hell. From where Danny's looking at us, it feels high too. So there's some type of suspension in this seat. It's just a bracket with like 3 inches of clearance between chassis or the frame and the actual seat, the actual spot where we sit. So we're gonna drop that, take it out, sit right on the frame so we go as slow as we can, and then we'll mock up the steering to see where we're gonna go with this.
So now that we have the steering system almost ready, we need to knock out a few things. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So Alfredo, give us the rundown of what we have here.
So this is basically the space that we're gonna use to mount our radiator. Cooling is very important on this one, especially since we flip the headers and we know we're gonna have a lot of heat there. So we're building everything based off of this front frame or frame section from the body on the John Deere. It's got a specific angle. I don't know if you can see it up there, but it's got a very specific angle that we want to keep, that original look. So we're gonna make sure the angle falls into place with the chassis of the Polaris right here. Bracket it up, so make some brackets so we hold it in place. Put the cooling system inside of here, and then from there we build up and back.
These are the tabs that we're gonna be welding onto the bar that we installed on the front. This is what's gonna hold the front grille together. So we just have it tacked in place. We're gonna weld it through completely on both ends, and it's gonna hold the front grille with bolts and nuts.